Do you want to learn how to steal customer credit card information from major retailers so you can buy anything you want?
Well, we can't help you with that. But among the many IT problems we solve, Barracuda's award-winning firewalls prevent hackers from taking your valuable data to the bank. Reclaim your network like 150,000 other businesses have. To learn more about protecting customer data and your reputation, visit barracuda.com/firewalls.
Get ready to embrace debate. First Take starts now.
Hello, everybody. Welcome into First Take from LA for the ESPYs. Look who is here. They are back. Skip Bayless, Stephen A. Smith. I'm Molly Karam. And let me just say, guys, my morning routine has not changed one bit, except instead of watching you debate from my couch, I get to see it up close and personal. So I'm very fired up, and I know I'm not the only person who is so excited.
Welcome aboard. Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Welcome, Molly, and I have some crucial advice for you.
Okay, I'm listening. All ears.
You've got to watch this guy.
Him?
Yeah.
I heard I got to watch both of you.
My advice to you, I'll add to that. You are the moderator. You're in control.
Okay.
Limit that man's mouth.
I like
Limit
control.
that man's mouth.
I think I got to watch both y'all. I'm gonna have my hands full here, but we've got a lot to discuss today. Please never take 3 weeks off again. I didn't know what to do with this.
He might not have liked it. It didn't bother me. I'm just saying.
We have two special guests coming up, friends of the program, Ken Jeong. Of course, we all know him as Leslie Chow from The Hangover. And we also have friend of the program, Jerry Ferrara from the Entourage movie. They're stopping by. But first, after verbally agreeing to a 4-year max deal with the Mavericks, DeAndre Jordan had a change of heart and re-signed with the Clippers. The contract with LA is a 4-year max deal that'll be worth $88 million. On Friday, DeAndre apologized to Mark Cuban for how he handled the situation via Twitter. I want to publicly apologize to one of the best owners in the world, Mark Cuban, the Mavs, and their fans. I'm humbled by the Mavs and Mark Cuban's kindness and understanding. I'm sorry to have a change of heart. However, Mark Cuban wasn't buying it and saying on Cyberdust, when is an apology not an apology when you didn't write it yourself? Next. Stephen A. Smith, what is your take on the DeAndre Jordan situation?
Well, first of all, let me say for the record, I have no problem with the fact that he elected to stay with the Los Angeles Clippers. I was on the record at the time, Skip Bayless, when we were off the air on First Take. Obviously, I had to be on SportsCenter, and I was of the mindset that it was absolutely stupid for him to think about leaving the Clippers to begin with, because DeAndre Jordan averaged about 10 shots a game. When you look at it from that perspective and think about the fact that 5 of those shots, actually about 10 points a game, rather, and you think about 5 of those shots come on dunks. Chris Paul, one of the best point guards in the world, is who you're leaving to play with either J.J. Barea, Jameer Nelson, who I love, young guy, but he's no Chris Paul. But him or Devin Harris, give me a break here. You can't go with that. So it was just, to me, asinine for DeAndre Jordan to even be thinking about leaving the Clippers to begin with. So the fact that he did an about-face and elected to stay with the team, I thought was perfectly within his right to do so. I thought he did the right thing. But I do regret and lament how he handled it. DeAndre Jordan is 26 years of age. In the United States of America and the world, I believe you're recognized as a grown man. And the fact of the matter is he came across as a little boy. And the reason he came across as a little boy is not because he changed his mind. It's not because he elected to stay with the Los Angeles Clippers. It's because you pick up the phone and you call Mark Cuban. You show him the courtesy and the decency. You made a commitment to take his 4 years, $80 million. You had the Dallas Mavericks bloviate about that. They were making plans in Big D about his arrival and what have you. If you've changed your mind, as far as I'm concerned, that's the first call that should have been made. You should have picked up the phone and you should have said, look, I'm sorry, I'm here at my house. I'm here with Doc Rivers. I'm here with Chris Paul. I'm here with Blake Griffin. I'm here with Paul Pierce. I'm here with billionaire owner Steve Ballmer. And the bottom line is I decided that it's best for me to stay here. I apologize, but I have changed my mind and I am staying in Los Angeles. The fact that he didn't do that is very, very bad. But what elevates the level of embarrassment exponentially, as far as I'm concerned, is the fact that Mark Cuban revealed that I did not hear from him. I heard from his mama. So not only did you not call, but somehow, some way, your mama picked up the phone and called Mark Cuban. You are a 26-year-old man. Why is your mama calling and not you? That is just incredibly embarrassing. It looks incredibly weak. And from this point forward, unfortunately, when you look at a situation like this, I think that DeAndre Jordan is a good person. I think that he's a big-time center. If he can hit his free throws, I think he's got the potential to be one of the best big men in the game. But there is a point in time where you clearly have handled something like a little boy, where people should be looking at you and looking for diapers. And this is one of those situations. It's very embarrassing to have your mama speak up before you. It just is.
First, let me say, as I listen to you speak and speak and speak,
Yes.
I must admit, I have to admit this publicly.
You missed me.
I missed you. I missed you. I just love listening
I missed
to
you too, bro.
bloviate.
I missed you too, bro.
Now, I'm going to take it a level deeper, and I hear everything you just said. But I cannot blame or certainly condemn DeAndre Jordan for the way he handled things, because it was predictable to me. And I think he showed you, and you said you like him as a person, but I think he showed you, he showed all of us who he is and who he is not. I am here to tell you that this is just me. When it comes to his basketball character, his mental toughness, this is why I would not want this man on my team or in my NBA foxhole, because he reacted predictably to me, because he panicked when he realized he was going to be the man making the max in Dallas, Texas. He was going to be the face of a franchise, when in fact, as you know full well, he's most comfortable and most suited for being the third wheel for the Los Angeles Clippers. So when it struck him, oh my God, I might crumble under this pressure in Dallas, he folded and fled immediately back to a Chris Paul and a Doc, who for the first time, I believe, in all their tenure together, showed him a little love and respect. Wouldn't you agree with that?
I don't think it was the first time, but I hear you.
Well, he belly ached about, oh, Chris is always on me and he's always pointing fingers at me, when he deserved to have fingers pointed at him.
He deserved to have
You know
fingers
what?
pointed at him. And by the way, DeAndre Jordan is known to have an attitude on occasion inside the Clippers locker room, where he gets in other guys' faces as well. So let's not act like Chris Paul is the bad guy and he was the innocent bystander.
No, and I agree with you. DeAndre made the right basketball decision, because Dallas was going to be a middling team with DeAndre, and the Clippers are back to being a Western Conference contender with DeAndre. So he did the right thing to go back to Chris Paul, because we know DeAndre's got big talent. He can defend, he can rebound, and he can definitely lob dunk, especially when he's fed by Chris Paul.
He's a Skywalker.
He's a Skywalker. But can he make big, crucial fourth-quarter free throws? Has he figured out how to do that yet? No, he has not.
He could barely make crucial first-quarter free throws.
Well, that's what I say. That's who this guy is not. But the Clippers are comfortable with who he isn't, because they've been playing and winning with who he is not. So to me, bottom line, the joke is on the Dallas Mavericks here, because they bet on the wrong guy. They should have seen this coming. And let me make a quick point. We're about to speak about my San Antonio Spurs. The Spurs could have been in on this derby, too. They could have said, hey, if we don't get LaMarcus, we want DeAndre. They were very quiet about DeAndre, because he's not their cup of NBA tea. They don't want him on their franchise.
Well, I respectfully disagree with that. I think that DeAndre Jordan would be an incredible asset to the San Antonio Spurs, especially playing alongside Tim Duncan, because Tim Duncan could play the 4 or the 5.
Not their kind of guy.
I'm just saying, the versatility with his greatness, DeAndre Jordan could only get better from that. I think the other thing about it, if you want to sit there and malign DeAndre Jordan from that perspective as it pertains to the San Antonio Spurs, we'll get into that later, but I will tell you that Greg Popovich's mentality and how he approaches things and how he refuses to kiss anybody's tush, for lack of a better phrase, the bottom line is that ain't going to work, because DeAndre Jordan clearly needed to be pacified. There's no doubt about that. But I'm not going to condemn the Dallas Mavericks for betting on the wrong guy. First of all, he wasn't the wrong guy. DeAndre Jordan is a big-time talent. There is no question in my mind that if this brother hits free throws, he is obviously one of the top 2 big men in the game of basketball if he can hit his free throws. When you talk about what they need, if you've got a DeAndre Jordan with the Dirk Nowitzki of the world and the Chandler Parsons, then you would have been formidable. Would you have won a title? No. You still would need to do more. But at the same time, it was going to be a significant upgrade. And I've said this to you repeatedly. You can't teach 7 feet. And the reason why, even though Akeem the Dream Olajuwon wasn't 7 feet, I would remind everybody, back in '84 when Michael Jordan was drafted 3rd overall, the Portland Trail Blazers were continuously crucified for grabbing Sam Bowie at number 2. Nobody knocked the Houston Rockets for taking Akeem the Dream Olajuwon at number 1, even though he never won a title until Jordan went into retirement and then ultimately...
Well, they didn't then, but they might now.
Yeah, but what I'm saying to you is that when you are 6'11", 7 feet tall, and you've got a requisite set of skills, you can't teach the size that comes with that. So nobody's going to knock the Dallas Mavericks. This is all on DeAndre Jordan. You gave your word, and your word has to mean something. And the fact that he went against that, and it's a subject that I feel the need to touch on and bring it up right now. Skip Bayless, I want you to keep this in mind. Back in 2010, and LeBron James would seem to have nothing to do with this, but he's relevant here. Back in 2010, when LeBron decided to go to South Beach, nobody lamented his decision to go to South Beach outside of Cleveland. It was perfectly within his right. What you lamented was how he handled it. What was the rippling effect of that? There was a collective bargaining negotiation that took place the following summer. The owners were dogmatic and hardcore, and they really went after the players. And some people felt that to some degree, the level of vitriol contributed to the players was due in large part with how LeBron James handled that stuff. Then that following December, because the negotiations were in the summer of 2011, then the guys were locked out, only 66 games were played that season. Then in the aftermath of all of that, what happened, Skip? There was Chris Paul trade, 3-team deal involving the New Orleans Hornets at the time, okay, the Rockets, all right, and the Lakers. And Chris Paul was supposed to go to the Lakers. And David Stern, de facto owner of the NBA, owned the team at the time, the Hornets, because they were devoid of ownership. What happened? He nixed the deal. What in large part contributed to that? Dan Gilbert raising holy hell about how the Lakers were going to save $20 million in salary, $21 million in luxury tax dollars, and they're still getting the best player. Well, does Dan Gilbert send that letter if LeBron James sits there and picks up the phone and calls him and say, I'm sorry, I appreciate everything, but I'm willing to go. I'm looking to go.
That was just bad blood.
Yeah, but I'm saying because of how it's handled. So now you have this situation with DeAndre refusing to go, reneging.
But very different than LeBron.
It's very different.
LeBron despised Dan Gilbert. The bridge had been burned.
No, what I'm saying to you is that this free agent moratorium and other things that come into play, it's something that you're going to hear about, and it's something that's going to be revisited. And a lot of times players are in the throes of a negotiation or what have you, rightfully so, thinking about themselves, but devoid of the extended impact that it could eventually have on other players in the future.
Shortened, though.
No, I'm just telling you that owners are going to look at something like this, see how DeAndre handled it. Who's to say an owner, Molly, Skip, doesn't turn around in the future and say, you know what I committed to you about a week ago verbally, now I could change my mind.
But there's an unwritten rule that your word is your bond during this period.
That's
and
what I'm saying.
There's never been a glaring example like this one with DeAndre. But my point is, were you shocked that he didn't call back Mark Cuban or Chandler Parsons who had recruited him?
I
was not.
I was.
That's who the guy is and is not. I'm sorry. That's who he is. And they shouldn't have been surprised because just watch him play. Listen to Chris Paul. Listen to Doc before. He's a third wheel, and he panicked, and he was ashamed of his decision, and he ran back to the Clippers. And I can't blame him. God bless him. Onward and upward.
I got you.
As we move on, this is the thing that I don't understand, though. If you don't want to call and deal with it, why are you going to have your mother call? Why don't you have your agent call? Hide behind your representation.
Well, in fairness to DeAndre, we don't know if he had his mother call. Sometimes mamas have the type of relationship where they take it upon themselves to do something, and they just do it. So I don't want to sit there and say that DeAndre did that, but it still looks very, very bad when your mama calls instead of you.
No, he should have called, but he doesn't have the guts to call. That's what it was. Bottom line.
All right. Well, the Clippers weren't the only busy ones during free agency. Of course, the Spurs as well, who were knocked out in the first round by the Clippers. There were a lot of unanswered questions about the future of Skip Spurs, but those questions have been answered. They landed one of the biggest free agents on the market in LaMarcus Aldridge. Tim Duncan signed a 2-year deal for only $10 million. Kawhi Leonard agreed to a 5-year, $90 million deal. Danny Green agreeing to a 4-year, $45 million deal, and David West took a $10.5 million pay cut to leave the Pacers for the Spurs. Skip Bayless. How did they pull this one off?
Stephen A. Smith. How about my Spurs? Go Spurs, go! Stephen A. Smith. Yeah, here we go again. My Spurs just won free agency the way they won the finals 2 years ago by a record margin. And it started with LaMarcus Aldridge. Wouldn't you say the biggest chip on the market?
No question.
He chose my Spurs because he wants to win a ring playing for the best organization in all of pro basketball alongside his idol, Tim Duncan, who, by the way, was part of the contingent that flew all the way to Los Angeles to convince LaMarcus to come to San Antonio. David West chose my Spurs for the veteran minimum, as Molly just pointed out, $1.5 million, because he wants to finally win a ring playing for the best organization in basketball. Danny Green, friend of our show, one of my favorites, could have had much more money from your Knicks maybe on the open market. A lot of people wanted Danny Green, but he gave my Spurs a little bit of a hometown discount because he loves playing for the Spurs in San Antonio, Texas. And now I believe that given reasonable health next year, my Spurs will win it all. What happened? Back to Molly's question. Why did it all come to pass? Bottom line, Tim Duncan chose to make $5 million next year to make this all work. Kobe Bryant next year will make $25 million, which is 5 times more than a guy coming off one of the best years of his career in Tim Duncan. Stephen A. Smith. LeBron James will make $23 million next year, and we're about to talk about them in one of our later topics, because I think they got some cap issues and some on-the-floor issues coming up, because LeBron makes too much money, to me, if he wants to win another championship. Tim Duncan is taking $5 million only because he wants to win his 6th ring. That is old-school sacrifice. We don't see it anymore in the National Basketball Association, and right now my Spurs should be the favorites to win it all. Thank you very much.
Well, a couple of things, because there's a litany of errors that you made in some of your that little soliloquy you just went on. So let me just address that. You are right, however, about the Spurs and how they should be the favorites, because their minds as well with the moves that they've made this offseason. And by the way, to me, it's just as big of an issue that David West is there as much as it is LaMarcus Aldridge, not because of ability on the court, because we know that LaMarcus Aldridge is on another level talent-wise right now compared to a David West, who I respect. It's just that David West could have opted in, stayed in Indiana, got $12 million. The fact that he opts out, even though he was looking for more money and it didn't come his way, to settle for $1.5 million in San Antonio, it just speaks a great deal about the greatness of Greg Popovich and the San Antonio Spurs organization, because you ain't making that kind of sacrifice unless you firmly believe in who that man is as the coach. Remember, LaMarcus Aldridge admitted to our very own Mark Stein that a lot in terms of his decision to go to San Antonio had a lot to do with Greg Popovich still having about 4 years remaining on his contract. LaMarcus Aldridge asked him flat out, are you going to stay for the entirety of this contract? And Greg Popovich said yes. And the thing that really sings, and it should sing to everybody, is that LaMarcus Aldridge said, I believe he's a man of his word. Because if you talk to anybody league-wide, Greg Popovich, a man with a military background, etc., he is all about his word. He gives it to you, it's gold. That means a lot to these players. Now let's get to the error part, because you brought up Kobe Bryant. We ain't going to get into the Lakers in this segment. We'll save that. But look at what the Lakers weren't able to do. They got about cap. They only got about $38.5 million they committed to. They had plenty of time, or plenty of cap space, rather, to go out there and get somebody else. What happened? They didn't get a damn soul. You know why? Because there's a difference between the San Antonio Spurs organization and the Los Angeles Lakers organization. And if you're working for an organization whose abilities, dare I say, are suspect to be kind, then I'm getting my money. And that's exactly what Kobe Bryant did. When you look at the San Antonio Spurs, let's be clear about something here. Tim Duncan took less money, but Kawhi Leonard did it. He got his $90 million. LaMarcus Aldridge didn't. He got his $80 million. So when I look at it from that perspective, $84 million to be exact with LaMarcus Aldridge. What I'm saying to you is that San Antonio has paid Tim Duncan in the past. Tim Duncan's taking pay cuts now because he wants to win. He's 39 years of age, et cetera, even though he was clearly the best player on the court for them in the first round against the Clippers. But when you look at a LaMarcus Aldridge and a Kawhi Leonard, the fact that they got paid, the San Antonio Spurs are paying people. They are getting people to come to play for them. They're not shortchanging them dollars-wise. And so when I look at it from that perspective, Skip, I'm going to give the San Antonio Spurs credit, but at the same time, I don't think it's a reason for you to look at a LeBron or a Kobe or anybody else and lament the fact that they're trying to get their money. Because in LeBron's case, you're mandating that the Cavs go out and do things you believe they didn't do in the past, which facilitated you departing for South Beach. And if you're Kobe Bryant, you got 5 rings to show for your work, your due diligence, your perseverance, et cetera, et cetera.
You're going to get a 6th?
No, you're not.
No, you're not.
But now, so does Tim Duncan. But I will remind you, Tim Duncan has Greg Popovich. He had Greg Popovich when he was a rookie. He's got Greg Popovich today. 18 years, 18 straight playoff appearances, 15-time All-NBA selection, 15-time All-Star. The list goes on and on. And he's had one coach. Okay? The continuity, the cohesiveness, everything has been in place. Kobe Bryant doesn't have that. And so if you don't have
get that backwards to me. You should look at it as Greg Popovich has had Tim Duncan for every year that he's coached. So it's been advantage Popovich, not Duncan. Popovich. He made Popovich the great coach you think he is.
Yeah, well, I understand that. But when you have players renowned the worldwide that talk about this man in his glowing fashion, including Tim Duncan. Listen, Greg Popovich doesn't want to do interviews. Why? Because he's a coach. It's a players' league. You understand? He got time for all of that. This is about them. He knows that. But it doesn't take away from the greatness that this man does. I'm talking in terms of structure. Now, either you're going to give credit to structure or you're not. You can't sit up there and talk about an organization and talk about the importance of cohesiveness and structure and then throw that aside just because of the greatness of Tim Duncan. Because guess what? If Tim Duncan were on the Knicks, they'd be respectable. But I assure you, they wouldn't be who they are in San Antonio. Trust me on that.
Yeah, but if he's making $5 million, maybe he'd attract a lot more talent there, because he's saying the young brothers are going to get their money here because I'm going to take $5 million coming off one of my best years of my career.
And I'm saying to you, he's saying that because of the organization. If Tim Duncan was playing for somebody like the Knicks, he might have retired already. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
Or maybe the Knicks would be winning rings.
Look, man, and I keep saying, they wouldn't. They would not be winning rings. Look, man, don't get on my nerves. I'm in a good mood, okay? We're off vacation, or not vacation, but we're all been off first time in 3 weeks. Don't get me started on the Knicks, man. I don't want to hear it.
We'll save them for later.
We got to talk about them later?
How'd they do in free agency, real well, huh?
Why you got to ask that, Molly? Why you got to ask that? We're
staying focused. That's for later. No.
I got one word for you.
Okay.
Porzingis.
What?
Porzingis?
Weight room. I got 2 words for you. Weight room. Brian Windhorst reporting late last week that before Kevin Love signed his contract, he had a meeting with LeBron James, and they talked about the future, and Kevin Love walked out of that meeting and signed a 5-year, $110 million deal with the Cavs. Then the Cavs and LeBron agreed to a new 2-year deal late last week. Cleveland also picked up Timofey Mozgov's option for next season and signed him on Shumpert to a 4-year deal. Still no new deals for J.R. Smith and Tristan Thompson. Skip, were the Cavs signings a good thing?
Stephen A. Smith, my first order of business is I thought they way overpaid for Kevin Love. As you know from our time on this show, I've never been the biggest Kevin Love fan as far as looking at him as a superstar max type of a player. He's going to get his double-double numbers as a below-the-rim rebounder and a spot-up three-point shooter. But he is a below-average defender. He is no shot blocker. And to my eye, and I think you agreed with me on this during the finals, I thought they looked like the Cavaliers a better all-around team with Tristan Thompson manning the paint for them during the finals. I thought they were better with him blocking shots, offensive rebounding, just his overall hustle and the defense that he played made them a completely different defensive basketball team. I think they're going to have trouble signing Tristan Thompson. I think that thing is just starting to heat up, and it's going to get stickier by the day, because all of a sudden Enes Kanter gets 4 years and $70 million from the Thunder, who had to match his offer sheet, obviously, from Portland. And all of a sudden Tristan's going to say, wait a second, I deserve that kind of money. I'm not sure they're going to have that kind of money to pay him. I did like their Mo Williams pickup. I love Mo Williams. I'm a big fan. I think he's been underrated his whole career. That was sweet. But this was not sweet to give that much money to Kevin Love on top of the money that Kyrie and obviously LeBron James make.
I think you're overreacting to the Kevin Love situation. I agree with you on its face that he's not worth $110 million. Not because of his skill set, but because there have been questions about his shoulders, his knees, and his back. And if you have those questions, I'm not investing 9 figures in you, $110 million on its face. Here's where things get interesting, Skip. Number one, you let go of Andrew Wiggins in order to get him. Andrew Wiggins, by most, is considered a budding star in this league. They feel like the best is yet to come. In 2 years, this brother's going to be big time. You have to justify it from that perspective.
That team is going to be interesting to watch.
Well, I just think they're young. Listen, everybody's making a whole bunch of noise about the Minnesota Timberwolves. As far as I'm concerned, Flip Saunders needs to go upstairs like owner Glenn Taylor wants him to. Let Sam Mitchell, former coach of the year in Toronto, be the head coach, call it a day. That's just my opinion, but it is what it is. In the end, they're still young. Karl Anthony Towns, all of that stuff that sounds nice, good, and dandy. He's got a lot of promise, but damn it, you're young, you're rookies, you're coming to the NBA level. You ain't going to be much anyway. You're going to be decent, but let's pump the brakes with Minnesota. They ain't even making the playoffs next year. All right? Now we get that out the way. Kevin Love, you have to keep him, not just because of Andrew Wiggins, but because at the very least he's a potential tradable asset. $110 million, 6'9", 6'10", can really shoot the rock, okay? And he's an asset that you want to hold on to. You don't want to lose him for nothing. That's why it was important to re-sign him. So when you look at it at that face, and then you consider all the new money coming in, how the cap has been raised by about 10%. The luxury tax number has been raised to about $84.7 million and what have you. Whatever they're going to trigger, the fact of the matter is it's not going to hurt as much as it customarily would, because the numbers have increased significantly, and as a result, it's not going to be that much of a death blow to the Cleveland Cavaliers. Then we get into the basketball side of it. While we watch the NBA Finals, remember, when the Cavaliers elected to go small, they still had trouble. While LeBron had to do everything offensively because there was no Kyrie Irving and there was no Kevin Love. And for whatever he is as a defensive liability, clearly he's somebody who can shoot the three. And because he can shoot it and he can be that kind of marksman, he spreads the floor, which gives LeBron and others room to operate. Therefore, you also can't key on Tristan Thompson. When Cleveland went small and Tristan Thompson was in the middle for you, LeBron James was playing alongside of him. But we all know that LeBron James prefers to play on the perimeter, not to mention he has the skills to play whatever position he needs to play. So now you could talk about playing Tristan with Kevin Love and LeBron James, and you don't miss anything, but you add an additional piece of firepower on the offensive side of the ball. If you're Cleveland and you're talking about winning a championship, that's what you're looking at, because you anticipate you're going to be back, if for no other reason, because of the lack of firepower in the East outside of the Miami Heat to worry about. So it's all about what can we do if we get back to the finals to knock off a Golden State, to knock off a San Antonio, potentially a Oklahoma City if Kevin Durant comes back healthy, or the Clippers, etc. You're looking at it from that perspective, and all of those things being what they are is why you had to sit there and retain Kevin Love, even though I agree with you on its face, $110 million is too much for him, but under the circumstances, it's completely understandable why they kept him.
$110 million for a guy who did not play in 16 fourth quarters last season.
That's right.
A guy I told you going into last year had been in Minnesota for 6 long years, and they had never, as him as the man, they'd never made the playoffs. And you kept saying, well, they're in the West, they're up against all these other teams.
And who was he playing with?
Okay, but was he, if you're telling me he's a $110 million player, I'm saying one of those years, the Minnesota T-Wolves should have made the playoffs.
And I'm saying to you, Skip, you can't make that argument now when the Enes Kanters of the world is getting paid $70 million. You know, you can't make that argument now.
See, they were looking at Kevin Love as a max-type player, a superstar.
Yeah, but I'm telling you that went out the window The reasons that I gave you is why they had to keep him and had to pay him that amount of money. They didn't do that because they think he's a superstar. Kevin Love, when healthy, to me, is a star, but he's a second-tier star. He's no LeBron, he's no Chris Paul, he's no Kevin Durant, he's nobody like that. But in these finals, if Kevin Love was out on that court, at the very least, I believe Cleveland wins if Kyrie's healthy. I believe the series goes 7 games if Kevin Love, without Kyrie, is healthy.
Okay, but the supporting cast just went cold from the three-point line, right?
But
JR just went cold. In the previous rounds, they were all hot. Shump's making his threes. Dellavedova's making his threes in the previous rounds,
but you
right?
know what? But the point is, and you know, that's really the key right there. That might very well be the odd man out, because I got news for you. With the addition of Mo Williams, who can ball, by the way, and who has had success in Cleveland, you don't really need J.R. Smith now, because J.R. Smith really hurt himself in that NBA Finals. You know you playing for your money, and you go out there and shoot like that.
I don't see any money left.
I don't see any money left. And then, by the way, he had a play option. He had a play option and opted in. He opted out of his player contract. He was due to get paid $6 million.
No, I agree. Are you sure they're going to be able to re-sign Tristan Thompson?
Yes.
When is somebody going to come out of left field and make him an offer?
That would be interesting, but remember, he's restricted, so they have the right to
I know,
match.
That's what I'm saying, but you could really stick it to Dan Gilbert if you made him a big offer.
They will not lose Tristan Thompson, who's 23 years of age and 6'10", and is a rebounder demon like that. Cleveland Cavaliers had better not lose him. They better not lose that brother.
LeBron and Tristan have the same agent, right? So
yes.
Would he have
although
signed?
there's another agent, Mark Termini is involved also.
No. Here's how it
Yeah.
works. Chris Paul is the agent, but Mark Termini is the one that goes in. Rich Paul is the agent, but Mark Termini is the one that negotiates on behalf of Rich Paul.
That's correct.
Just like Tom Condon negotiates on behalf of Jay-Z and Rock Nation and Mark Perez and those guys.
No nonsense, I'll take no guff kind of guy.
He's a no-nonsense guy, but he answers to Rich Paul.
I just think this thing's just heating up now.
Yeah, it is.
I just don't know if LeBron would have signed if he didn't think they were going to lock down Tristan.
Exactly.
I know.
Well, that's the belief, but they could always change their mind. Tristan Thompson will stay with the Cleveland. He's restricted. They don't have to lose him, and they're not going to lose him.
Well, he was talking about winning the max, and now they've come on now.
Listen, the max ain't Kevin Love max. The other team can't offer Tristan $110 million.
We are thrilled to be joined by actor and comedian Ken Jeong here, and we got a little clip to start though.
Good.
Yeah.
I want to see it.
Let's let that roll
where's it
first.
at?
Oh, no!
What's going on?
Allison, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm having several extramarital affairs. No, it's just going to break your heart. I'm nailing all your friends.
Daughter tracker?
It's not what it sounds like. It tracks prostitutes. And every prostitute is someone's daughter.
That looks tremendous. Ken, a lot of people know you obviously as Leslie Chow, but we got this new role. Before we get into that, it's your birthday.
Oh, yeah.
Happy birthday.
You joined the show on your birthday.
No, it's treating myself. This is my birthday. My birthday wish is to be on First Take. So
Right? Who's better than you? You get to be with these two.
No, thank you. I really appreciate you guys having me again, so thank you.
So tell us about this new show, Dr. Ken.
Oh, yeah, it's loosely based on my life. I used to be a doctor at an HMO here in California, and also based on my family life. I have a wife and 2 kids, and it's really beyond a dream come true. I mean, this is kind of the happiest I've ever been in terms of the situation. I can't believe that, and so grateful that ABC is allowed me to have a series, much less. I mean, I was happy with the pilot, so my expectations have always been very realistic. So.
And the movie knocked up. Okay, movie knocked up.
No, why are we going back to that?
Because I'm getting ready to tell you why. Stay with me.
Okay.
You were quite mean as a doctor in that movie. You were hilarious there. Do you have any of those moments in the show?
Oh yeah, they're definitely inspired by Dr. Cooney and Knocked Up. They're definitely, I think that's a prototype. I think a little bit of Skip, maybe like a little bit of. I think that's kind of a workshop. Yes, there's a compliment.
Thank you.
Just kind of workshopping.
Channel your inner Skip.
Channeling your inner Skip. So I think this is very. I'm really here to shadow you as opposed to really be a guest.
You've got to be kidding me. You've got to be kidding me. Skip Bayless on ABC?
Could be, maybe the spinoff is Dr. Skip. Who knows? So.
Allow me to congratulate you on your birthday for an amazing career arc, going from doctor to stand-up comic along the way, to all of a sudden, all those movies, and you have your own series on ABC, for which you write because you are a doctor.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Not a talented family or anything. Gee, do it all.
Right.
Okay, let's talk some sports because you're good at this. You are a huge NBA fan, and I think you've swung now your allegiance here in L.A. to Clippers more than Lakers, right?
I do love the Clippers. I do love me some Clippers.
I think you heard our takes to start this show on DeAndre Jordan. Your take, please.
With all due respect, I disagree with your assessment of the situation. I do think that
I'm going to get mean on you.
That's fine, and I'll take it on camera, and then cool. So no tears today. It's my birthday. And
you can cry if you want to.
I will cry if need be. But I think DeAndre made the right decision, ultimately to go to the Clippers. And I'll tell you why. I think, the Mavs had the better pitch. Clippers had the better roster. It doesn't matter what the pitch is.
That's
you
fair.
Look at the roster. And you're also talking about a 26-year-old man making decisions that someone in my 40s, I'm 23, but someone in my 40s.
We all are.
Yeah. So I'm in my 40s and making those decisions. I can't make decisions that well. So to me, it was obvious it was a bit of an emotional journey that he had with the Mavs and a bit of an emotional decision. My managers always told me never make decisions in business based on emotion. That's kind of what happened. But you had the moratorium, completely legal, and he changed his mind and he went to the Clippers. Yes, he's going to take a hit in popularity. Sure. He's going to take a hit with some street cred. But at the end of the day, as ugly as this journey was, he made the right basketball decision.
I don't think there's any question that he made the right basketball decision, but I'm wondering, you're 26 years old. It's not like you're a boy. You can pick up the phone and call the owner and tell him after you agreed to take his money that you changed his mind, right?
What if his people said, or maybe his agent said, don't call anybody? That's common in business. What if he wanted to call Mark Cuban and he's like, don't call anyone until this is all blows away?
Well, here's the problem. The agent in question is a guy by the name of Dan Fagan, who's considered to be very, very tight with Mark Cuban. And when DeAndre Jordan was in his house and he had changed his mind, his agent his agent couldn't even get in the house. So clearly the agent wasn't listening to his agent, because if he was listening to his agent, chances are he would not only call Mark Cuban, but probably would have taken the deal after agreeing to take the deal, because DeAndre changing his mind not only makes him look bad, it makes his agent look bad.
Well, they weren't on the same page, but I'll play devil's advocate. What if Fagan had, and I read about that, what if Fagan led into that path? And sometimes when you're talent and your agent tells you to do this, off camera, I'm pretty shy and pretty polite. I'll be like, okay. And then they're telling you to go do this movie as opposed to this other movie. Oh, this is great. Oh, cool. And then if you're a people pleaser at heart, and I've met DeAndre several times, he is a lovely guy. I love him.
He's a very nice guy.
Very nice guy. And I think you're put in a very hard situation. Yes, it could be blame could be put both ways, but also when you're having an agent that's allegedly steering you towards the Mavs, sometimes you're in a bit of a pickle, and it gets ugly.
Barricade him out of the house.
Look, it was an ugly situation. At the end of the day, I think he made the right basketball decision. When the Clippers, when they're winning, it's going to be, people forget.
I think you have fallen into the trap of you've gotten to know him, and I do think he can come across as a very nice guy, a fun guy to be around, as you've often said. He's great with the media, but again, from a basketball perspective, he's the kind of guy I wouldn't want on my team. I wouldn't want in my NBA foxhole, so to speak.
Disagree there.
Okay, I just don't think he has the highest basketball character, but I agree with you. He's a perfect fit as a third wheel behind Chris Paul, Blake Griffin, with Doc Rivers as his coach. He's a much better fit with your Clippers, which is why they're back in contention, than he would have been as the man in Dallas. I think he would have crumbled under that kind of pressure to live up to that contract in that town.
I think in business, I think GMs and coaches make decisions like this all the time. No one knows about because let's say they're not in the spotlight. So if they're flipping their decisions, right on, telling a player, we're not going to trade you, and then they trade you. That happens all the time. I feel like this is a behind-the-scene thing that you just saw the underneath the rug, underneath the carpet, and it's just laid out for everyone to see. And the Clippers didn't do themselves any favor by emojiing and documenting all that.
Emojiing.
So, but
Doc, I'm going to put you on the spot.
Yes, sir.
It's all nice, good and dandy. You're sitting here, we love having you on the show. You're a Clippers fan. You waffle back and forth. You're fair weather. I get all of it.
The weather is fair in LA.
Hey, it's better than fair. But let me throw this at you. Those few days when it was announced that he was going to Dallas and he was leaving the Los Angeles Clippers, how are you feeling about the Clippers at that particular moment as you pondered life without DeAndre Jordan? And it was just CP3, Blake Griffin, and Doc Rivers having lost out on DeAndre Jordan with no cap space to literally go out there and correct losing such an impactful player. Where was your mentality then? I would like to know.
Well, my biggest regret, yes, I did. Did I buy MAV season tickets too fast? Yes, I did. Do I regret that? Yes, I do. But having said that, neither team had a plan B, in my opinion. If they didn't get DeAndre, they didn't know where they're going to go. The Clippers, they didn't know where they were going to go. So it's one of those things. It's a shame someone had to lose out on that because neither team, in my opinion, had a plan B. So, yes, the Clippers would have been, dealt a major blow. And I was thinking, I was in the writer's room and Dr. Kim, and one of the writers told me, they're saying, like, DeAndre went to the Mavs. I'm like, what?
You wrote him out of the show right then? You were like, he's out. No cameo
for him. No cameo for him, Maybe I'll call Cuban and maybe to have him invite me to a cameo.
There you go.
But no, I think that, look, it's ugly right now, but winning will cure all ills, and it will, and the Clippers are now back in contention, and at least to the Western Conference Finals.
I'm going to put you on a good spot here. Your most famous or maybe infamous character that you've ever played was the Hangover character, Leslie Chow.
Yes.
So do us a favor. You're great as Leslie Chow. Assume character here. Go into character.
Okay.
And try to coach LeBron and company, if you would. How would you coach them as Leslie Chow?
Okay, like in the finals, like the NBA finals?
Yeah.
Like, LeBron, you're doing too many ISOs. Too many ISOs, stupid. Trust Black. Even though he's funny, it's funny because he's black. So now we have to rebuild, but be smart. Be smart.
Okay.
Don't hire Tristan for $90 million. No, you could get him for much cheaper.
Much cheaper.
And he's fat. I didn't say that. That was Chow. That was Chow.
Yeah, it was Chow because you're telling them to trust Black. Trust Black. Okay.
That's what Chow's saying. Ken Jeong is not necessarily saying that.
Here we go.
But I'm also saying not to trust Chow. I'm fair weather, as you know. This is L.A.
That's right.
We just want to be loved.
How you feeling about I'm sorry, go ahead.
That's all right. I got one last area here.
Yes, sir.
You're a Duke undergrad. You went to UNC, obviously, med school. But the shock of the night, the first shock anyway, on draft night, was Jahlil Okafor of your Duke University did not go to the Lakers.
Should have went. He should have went to the Lakers. I mean, I think he's the new big fundamental. I mean, I think Towns is amazing. He's a genius, and he deserves to go first. But you don't pass up on Okafor. He did well. The 76ers played the Lakers in the summer league over the weekend. Jahlil did very well. I mean, Russell is great, and I think he is so talented.
Is it a Duke thing?
I think there is a stat where Duke teams that have won championships, their top players have been number 3 in the draft. And it's almost like, there's almost like a stigma sometimes when, and this happened to Dean Smith in Carolina back in the day, when the top players of their programs, they would get drafted, they would assume that they're drafted high, or they're assuming that they're superstars because of the system. But I don't think that. I mean, Okafor, he was just a freshman. He is a superstar, and the Lakers should have taken him.
I so agree, and I think you agree.
Of course I do. Listen. Here's why no one had a problem with D'Angelo Russell being taken number 2 overall. You assumed that the Lakers had a deal in place for a big man if they were going to take the point guard number 2. because it was LaMarcus Aldridge, it was Marc Gasol, it was DeAndre Jordan, even though I knew he wasn't going to leave the Clippers to stay in town and play for the Lakers. I mean, you saw all of these different Tyson Chandler to a lesser degree, who ended up going to Phoenix, and Phoenix did well in free agency as well. You just look at it from that perspective, and you were just of the mindset they must have a big deal, a deal in place for a big man. And when that didn't reach fruition in free agency, now you're looking at D'Angelo Russell, even though they rave about him, point guard, they say he's 3 steps ahead of everybody. He sees the floor exceptionally well. He's going to be special. But you do find yourself looking at them and said, you passed up on a dude that's going to give you 20 and 10 a night.
By the way, he might be 3 mental steps, but not 3 physical steps ahead of everybody. I don't think he's an explosive athlete.
Well, they talk about him as a point guard. They say they say he passes it to where you should be, not to you. They say he knows what he's doing, and he's just a quintessential floor general. They say he's going to be special. We'll see. But you don't teach the size and offensive ability that Jahlil Okafor has, and they passed up on him. I don't understand that.
7 turnovers over the weekend, Russell had.
He did. Good stat. This guy knows his sports.
He's research too. Thank you so much for joining us. Dr. Ken on ABC. Yes or no? Clippers get out of the second round?
Oh, yeah. Clippers get out of the second
round. That's emotion talking.
All right. They do. Happy birthday. Hope you have a great rest of the day.
Geico presents Strange Savings Stories. Astronomers detected an interstellar transmission. It stated, Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more. The implications were staggering. Was the cosmos telling us we could all save hundreds on car insurance with Geico? Or did their radar merely pick up a signal from the nearby Rufus and Clyde's morning show? We may never know.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
Greg Hardy's suspension was reduced from 10 games to 4 after his appeal was heard by arbitrator Harold Henderson. The NFL initially suspending Hardy in April for what it deemed to be multiple violations of the personal conduct policy during an incident with a former girlfriend in the spring of 2014. The charges against Hardy eventually dismissed after Nicole Holder refused to cooperate with officials. Hardy is now eligible to return Week 5 at home against the Patriots. Stephen A. Smith, let's go to you here first. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, my thought, first of all, is that Greg Hardy's a very, very lucky man. And the reason why he's a lucky man is that he's lucky, really the NFL wasn't as dogmatic. And that the whole appeal process worked in his favor. Going from 10 games to 4 games, when it's revealed that, you, according to Nicole Holder, you took her through a slinger on a futon bed filled with rifles, slammed a toilet bowl on her arm or whatever, threatened to kill her, et cetera, you go through all of that. Even though he emphatically and categorically denied such things, the fact is, during a bench trial, a judge in North Carolina found him guilty. And ultimately, in the state of North Carolina, you have the right to appeal that, which he did. And when he appealed it, then the prosecutors could not locate Nicole Holder for a jury trial. And as a result, presumably they settled out of court, and that's why the matter has been put behind them. People need to understand that the reduction comes from the fact that apparently the arbitrator is surmising that you can't retroactively punish somebody. They're feeding off the whole Ray Rice situation, where the policy that was initially in place called for a lighter penalty than what ultimately was imposed against him once the league had seen the video of him striking his then fiancée, who's now his wife. So they're looking at it from that premise, and they're saying, okay, we've learned that we can't retroactively punish somebody like this. Therefore, since the whole Greg Hardy situation took place 3 months prior to Ray Rice, well, guess what? We went from 10 games, so that has to be reduced. Where they lose me, Skip, is how it goes from 10 to 4 as opposed from 10 to 6. Because the policy mandated that you can give him 6 games. So how do you go down to 4? I can understand them saying, okay, well, since we can't retroactively punish this guy, why can't we just go from 10 to 6 as opposed to 10 to 4 games? He didn't lose any dollars last year when he was on the commissioner's exempt list. He got all $13.1 million of his money. So he didn't lose any money last year, even though he didn't play the games. This year, he's allowed to practice come training camp July 30th. Okay, not only that, he's allowed to participate in all preseason games before the punishment is enacted for the regular season games. So you would think that it should be 6 games as opposed to 4. But I did believe a reduction in the suspension was imminent because this happened before the implementation of the league's new domestic violence policy. I did believe that was going to happen. I just didn't expect it to be 4 games. I thought it would be 6 games. But that's really the only issue here, because what you're saying is we can't sit there and piggyback and, grandfather your punishment into new new penalties that we've implemented. From a technical and legalese perspective, I knew that the suspension, there would be a reduction, but obviously it just doesn't look good. And then to hear that he might not be finished with it according to his agent, that he still may be pursuing legal action, it really appears to be a bad move. But then again, we have to remind ourselves, he has emphatically maintained his innocence all along or whatever, which would fall in line with why he's fighting it, but it just looks bad for him. He just needs to let this go and move forward.
I'm going to answer this question as a lifelong Dallas Cowboy fan.
Okay.
I was on record sitting in this chair, as you might remember, back in Bristol, that I did not want Jerry Jones to even sign this man, because after I read his accuser's graphic and appalling testimony that you allude to, I thought to myself, I do not want to be forced to have to root for this man in a football context as a Cowboy fan. So I don't want him on my roster. I don't care how great he might be. And I am further appalled at this reduction in his suspension. This is Harold Henderson. This is the NFL's Dr. No. This is the company man who never seems to reduce any suspension. Doesn't he uphold seemingly every appeal? And all of a sudden, as you point out, we go from 10 all the way down to 4? How do you get to 4? I get precedent. I get grandfather. I get the fact that ultimately he was not convicted in North Carolina. I get all that. I also get this testimony that I read and reread until my stomach turned, and I don't get it. Now, I'm not going to be a hypocrite as we get into the football season. I'll still root for my Cowboys, but, man, it's hard for me to separate or not separate this man from this football team, because I love the football team, and I'm disgusted he's on it.
Well, let me tell you why it's not hard for me to separate it. The reason why it's not hard for me to separate it is because this is not a Greg Hardy problem. This is a league issue. When you consider how, whether it's the National Organization of Women or other groups, have highlighted the level of negligence that ran roughshod through the National Football League in the Roger Goodell era, the fact of the matter is that Roger Goodell and the NFL didn't have much to say for weeks at a time until they came out with the new policy, and then they wanted the focus to be on the new implementation of the domestic violence policy that many argued should have been in place for years and years and years. We're not absolving Greg Hardy by any stretch of the imagination. As far as I'm concerned, if what she said, what happened to her, was accurate at the hands of Greg Hardy, to me, he should be in jail. It's just that simple. But the flip side to it is that there are so many things, and Molly, you covering the NFL for many years, where you know this just as well as any of us do. The fact of the matter is that when you think about an incident, whether it's a Greg Hardy, whether it's a Ray Rice, whether it's a Ray McDonald, who we're learning more and more about because he's got his own issues now, or whatever, there's a level of negligence that was taking place that, quite frankly, most of us were not aware of.
So he should continue to benefit from that negligence?
No, what I'm saying to you is that the people in positions of power who had an opportunity to address these kind of problems years ago never did.
They never did.
Skip, one thing I wanted to point out, though, if they went by the old policy, he'd only get two games because it's the first offense there. That's right. I know we'll get into this at a later date, but this I just find hard to understand that potentially, and I know it can get reduced, that Brady would get 4 games for what he did, and Greg Hardy also 4 games when you just talked about those egregious acts.
It's a good point, but I'm going to stand by what I've also said many times on this show. I believe that the commissioner who is hearing directly Brady's appeal will reduce from 4 to, I'm going to guess, 2. And I'm pretty sure that Tom Brady still will take the NFL to court to try to get all games dismissed and play in game 1.
Well, I have no doubt that Tom Brady is going to try to get all games dismissed, and he will take the NFL to court. That's predictable. My problem with your position is that you walk around acting like Tom Brady will retire before he plays a game, if indeed he has to accept and absorb and stomach a suspension of 2 games or whatever. Please, Tom Brady's going to play next season. Whether it's 2 games, he's going. Whether it's 4 games, he's going to play. Now, he may fight like hell to get their suspension eradicated, but he's going to play. He's not going to retire. Also, let's keep in mind, and let's not confuse the 2 issues. I'm just as appalled as anybody else if Tom Brady ends up spending or serving the same amount of a suspension as Greg Hardy. Commissioner Roger Goodell is seen hugging this man. Talked about him being an ambassador for the NFL, okay? We all know the greatness of Tom Brady, okay, who's won 4 Super Bowl titles. Let's also keep in mind the fact that this guy is a model citizen off the field. This guy does not get in trouble with the law or anything like that. So let's not confuse the issue. The flip side, however, is this. The suspension that was handed down to him, the league and Roger Goodell himself and Troy Vincent himself can make. The case that they can make is that their penalty, as they stated, was in large part due to the New England Patriots and Tom Brady's lack of cooperation. So what they can simply say is, look, if you don't cooperate with us, this is the penalty we're handing down. We're not calling you a domestic abuser or anything. We're saying when you don't cooperate with us, this is the hammer we're bringing down on you. And as long as they don't confuse the issue, they are perfectly within their right to stand by their penalty.
You are confusing cooperation with confessing. He had nothing to confess, so he said, I don't know what you're talking about because I believe he doesn't know what they're talking about.
And I believe that you're wrong in saying I'm confusing it. The NFL may be confusing it, but it's not me. I'm only quoting what they said. They said he wasn't cooperative.
That's what they said.
All right, what I'm saying is, well, they're the ones with the hammer. And they brought it down.
Maybe a judge will have the hammer.
And they did not say, Skip, we're bringing down this hammer because you know what? You deflated footballs. They're saying your lack of cooperation leads us to believe you did.
Semantics.
Joining us now, FOP, that's friend of the program, Jerry Ferrara. Diehard All Things Knicks. Starring in the All Things New York, starring in the Entourage movie. Thanks so much for joining us.
I'm sorry, I haven't recovered from the back yet. Just watching some of those highlights, it just hurt my soul.
Either has this guy. That's why he's just quiet over there. Let's talk about your Knicks, because we talked about...
You know what, I can just leave now, because I don't think I'm going to get a word in edgewise.
No, go ahead and talk, Skip. Just don't irritate me.
Yeah, I'm about to.
Listen, Skip already won. We talked about his Spurs. Your Knicks. Let's talk about what they did or didn't do, for that matter.
And I really want to hear what you have to say because I missed you guys being away so long. So much has happened, and now you're back. But look, I'm being a little foolish because I'm very, very excited because I think we could win more than 17 games with this team. I'm actually contemplating. Stephen A, you should come. I want to go to the Knicks-Lakers Summer League game after this. Because I think that's the best matchup we're going to get.
When is it?
2 p.m. today.
2 p.m. today?
We go right from here.
Got a private jet to go to Vegas?
Well, maybe one of our friends who's watching, somebody reach out, give us a lift.
Maybe.
In announcing D'Angelo versus Kristaps.
I would do that. I'd do that if you had a private jet.
He's won me over. He
has? At 7 feet 3 inches tall?
Here's my issue with the pick, okay? If he turns out to be an 11-5 guy, which would be a very nice NBA career, I still think it's going to be a disappointment. There's so much hype now around him being Dirk, which is almost impossible to live up to that. I think if he has a solid career, it's still never going to be enough. And that's what concerns me the most. I love the Jerry and Grant move. We actually, again, I'm getting caught up in the Summer League stuff. It looks like my pickup game at times, but he looks good in the Summer League.
Go ahead, Skip.
Well, Porzingis looks good in Summer League.
Yeah, he looked
So
fantastic.
you're going to hang your hat and Phil Jackson's hat on Porzingis in the Summer League, where, to my eye, as I watch him in Summer League,
Yes.
he can't get any inside position on anybody because he weighs like 165 pounds.
He did get back down quite a few times. He's going to have to put some weight on, but I think that
Protein shakes.
more than that. We're going to have to send him more than that. I'm not hanging my hat on it. I'm hanging my hat on the fact that the Knicks in the East actually have a young team now that is worth watching on an excitement level. Whereas last year we were sold the goods of Calderon and Jason Smith and expecting to make the playoffs with that team. That was never going to happen. We at least have a young team and are hopeful, and we don't have a draft pick next year, so this has to work. It has to.
Do you see a highly skilled big man, Mr. Smith, and Porzingis, Kristaps?
Great on Instagram.
Is he?
He's pretty good.
I got to check that out.
See, Skip's messing with me. Let me be very clear, because when I went on SportsCenter, that was immediately after the draft.
I remember.
Came out of vacation.
Usually, because ESPN, they paid me, and if they call me, I'm going to come, whether I'm on vacation or not. This was different, because I called ESPN and told them, make room for me on tonight's SportsCenter, I'm coming on. It was immediately after the pick. And here's what really rakes my nerves, and it rakes my nerves to a point where it's hard for me to contain myself, but I'm going to try because I've exploded enough. It's not about Porzingis and his talent. He's 7'1". They say he was 7'1", maybe 7'1", 7'3", whatever the case may be. Only 220. That's listed at 220 or whatever. He's got some skills. He's in Europe. He looks athletic and mobile. Didn't look bad in Summer League. Didn't look that great to me. But here's the point. It totally deviates from what Phil Jackson sold us on. Phil Jackson said, it's not a project. It's not about building for the long term. I'm sorry, and I'm not joking. I'm dead serious. I could do the job that Phil Jackson did last year. You tanked the season. You're so god-awful that you end up with a top 4 pick, and you pick presumably the best talent available at the number 4 slot. But you traded Tyson Chandler, who was approaching the last year of his contract, okay? You didn't have to let him go, all right? Ultimately, you traded J.R. Smith and Amon Shumpert before the trading deadline. And you kept them within the daggone conference, by the way, for 2 draft picks and 2 trade exceptions, all right? Not only did you do that, you tried to sell us on Jose Calderon, okay? We still haven't bought it. There's still an APB out for his game. All we say about, this is what we say about Jose Calderon. He's such a nice guy. I mean, what? That's the best you've got? And then on top of it all, you turn around and you sign Carmelo to $124 million. It's a rebuilding process. Now, had you told us that, do you know what we would have said to Phil? Go ahead and let Carmelo go. Or sign and trade him. Don't bother, because we don't need to watch Carmelo Anthony, one of the top 5 offensive players of this generation. We don't need to watch Carmelo Anthony lose night in and night out. Let him go somewhere else, get something quality for him in return, and build. And it would have been a reclamation project that we all would have accepted, because you know what? All right, you sold us on that. You told us. The problem is, Phil didn't tell us that. He said it's the Eastern Conference. We should be able to compete for playoffs. I just need to make these moves. And clearly, he lied. He hoodwinked us all. The man went on 3 road trips last year, ladies and gentlemen. 2 of them were to L.A. Clippers, Lakers. I'm sorry, doesn't he live out here? I do believe he lives out here. That doesn't count as a road trip. That counts as you going home. Other than that, you went to London. The man, listen, when you got executives, watch these executives in this league. They're all over the place. They're at Summer League, they're at the games, they're traveling on the road. Not Phil Jackson. And if you're going to develop, I like Derek Fisher. You know how I feel about Derek Fisher. But if you're going to develop talent, don't you need to have somebody who's experienced as a coach in developing talent, as opposed to somebody who's never coached on any level in his life? Everything Phil Jackson has done He has lied to us, and that's the issue.
He didn't intentionally hoodwink you. He thought, I am Phil Jackson. I will set up shop in New York City. I will open my arms, and they will come. All the big free agents will come to New York because they'll want to serve me.
So he didn't lie to us. He lied to himself because he's so arrogant, so he deluded himself.
Yeah.
Either way he lied, damn it. Just get technical, Mr. Manson. Right. You lied to yourself, you lied to us. It's all the same to me because you didn't tell the truth. And in the end, here's what it comes down to. And I'm getting sick and tired of people who cover sports not picking up on this, especially when it comes to the NBA. When you are an executive and you don't recruit in free agency, you are not doing your job.
True.
Yeah, you can go and draft. We got scouts and player personnel directors for that. The executive is supposed to be the dude that sits there and says, this is what I'm building. Come here. And Phil Jackson clearly is. Robin Lopez. He's not bad. I like Aaron Aflalo. Listen, Robin Lopez is a role player. Aaron Aflalo can play. But listen, Aaron Aflalo, Robin Lopez, and Jerry and Grant.
Williams.
Listen, Jerry and Grant. Stop it. Jerry and Grant. Listen, Jerry and Grant. Jerry and Grant out of Notre Dame, is a really quality point guard. You don't need a point guard in the triangle.
No.
Everywhere you turn, it's just awful. Just awful.
There's a bigger problem now that's happening, too, is because clearly free agents want to go to winning teams, as Monroe proved. So if it's another 18-win season...
Thank you, Molly. Because we lost out on Greg Monroe to Milwaukee, who, by the way, Jason Kidd is doing a hell of a job.
Oh, he really is.
He is doing a special job. He really, really is. And they had him. Remember, he left the Knicks to go and be the coach of Brooklyn. He was right in your backyard. Everything associated with the Knicks, they lose.
Okay.
Everything.
I am sick of talking about the New York Knicks because they bore me now.
Yes.
So let's talk about a team that does not bore me. Your Giants. Because I think they will be a threat to my Dallas Cowboys in the NFC East this year, though they might be missing their best pass rusher because of fireworks. Yeah. Your thoughts?
Well, when I first heard that, I was hoping that it was just something that was maybe going to be over-reported and was a minor thing and there wasn't much going on in the news cycle. And then you start hearing, like, we don't think it's career-threatening, so my radar went up immediately. And then there literally comes into play, like, his career. It's not even so much like as a Giant fan, yes, I want him on the field, but then also on a human level, like, you don't want to see, and I say kid with all due respect because he's younger than me, lose a career because of an accident like that. I do wish that, you know, some of these guys would just realize you just can't do the things that you used to enjoy doing as a kid. It's just a level of you got to put it down and let someone else do it.
All right, can we stop with the niceties? He was stupid. I mean, that's just what it comes down to. You got $14.8 million on the table to sign for.
Let's light them off.
And you're gonna play around with fireworks? Really? You don't know better than that? I have no patience. Look, I am allergic to idiocy. There's a lot of things that we can tolerate. Idiocy should be one of them. There's certain dudes that deserve to miss a season just because they do something stupid. Just because they do something stupid.
Right, but not a career. And that's why I started to feel nervous, because when they start saying career,
it won't end his career.
No, but I'm saying that was the first.
He might not be able to grab as well, but it's just fractured and
it's not going to end his career. He's going to play, but
he ain't throwing the football. He'll be all right.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see. You know, we'll see.
I have never understood how in this great country of ours we celebrate our independence every 4th of July by lighting small bombs in our hands. I don't really get it, but he did it. That should be in the contract. I always tell you, you shouldn't be in clubs after midnight. That should be in the contract. Skydiving, bungee jumping, motorcycle riding, firecracker popping on the 4th of July. It is idiocy of the highest order. And he comes off to me every time I see him interviewed or I watch him on the sidelines. He's like an overgrown kid, and I don't think he's grown up. Maybe he'll grow up now.
Well, listen, here's the embarrassing part. The New York Giants fly from New York to go see you. And they can't get in to see you because your family or whomever it was shielding the Giants from getting in to see you. And you thought hiding for them would elevate your stock? I mean, really? I mean, really? You don't think that they would have something inside of them that says, maybe this is worse than what it appears? Because we want to see you and we can't even see you? Really? You know, you're taking millions from them. And by the way, JPP hasn't been the same in years. He hasn't been what he used to be.
After that back injury, it was never the same.
Oh, right.
He did have a decent amount of
No, he's big time. He's a big time talent when healthy.
And they need him.
And they need him.
And bottom line, I do think they're going to be really good next year.
I think the Vereen pickup is going to be great for them because when Eli had like Ahmad Bradshaw to throw to, it changes his whole game. It does limit the interceptions a little bit, and I think Vereen is the best in the business at that.
That offensive line is still suspect, y'all.
It is, and I think having a good pass-catching running back will help alleviate some of that pressure as well. And if Victor Cruz is healthy, their offense is going to be legit. I think also the defense does have some problems, and if you lose JPP, it's not the same.
It makes me feel better about my Cowboys now.
I see. That's where I like to set you up that way.
By default.
I like to set you up that way.
You should feel very good about your Cowboys. Jerry, thanks so much for stopping by.
Again, always a pleasure. I love when you guys are out here. Welcome back. And one last thing. We had a long talk a few years ago. Bubba Watson, will he win another major or not after his first Masters? I said yes. You said no. I had the research team check. He's got one since. I'm not often right.
Is he going to win another one?
Yeah, why not?
Next weekend?
Yes, why not?
I think Jordan Spieth actually has a shot to win 3 in a row.
And now, for Geico's edition of Stuff Found in Your Car, we go inside your side door pocket.
Hello, yes, the crumpled receipt with gum in it. From your anniversary dinner, you sprang for expensive wine, your server was Beth. That dinner was a couple $100. Money you could get back if you switched to Geico and saved hundreds of dollars on your car insurance. I bet you'd save that receipt. Frame it even. But really, where did I go wrong? Was it the corkage fee?
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Visit geico.com today.
Skip Spurs and the Cavs aren't the only teams that have been busy this offseason. LeBron's former team, the Miami Heat, have also been very active, starting with Dwayne Wade signing a one-year, $20 million deal to stay with the team. But that wasn't the only thing they did. They also signed Goran Dragic to a 5-year deal, brought in Gerald Green. They signed veteran big man Amari Stoudemire to a minimum contract. And what many people are calling the steal of the draft, they chose Justice Winslow with that 10th pick. So how much of a threat are the Heat to the Cavs right now, Stephen A?
I would say they're a threat. The Cavaliers are still the favorite, but I think the Miami Heat are on a collision course with the Cleveland Cavaliers for a date in the Eastern Conference Finals. This is a testament to Pat Riley, Mickey Harrison, and the greatness of the Miami Heat organization. They re-signed Dwayne Wade, got him to take a one-year deal. They re-signed Goran Dragic to an $85 million contract, $90 million actually. You look at Hassan Whiteside, that's somebody they're determined to bring on board in the morning time. I'm sorry, in the next year, you know, when he becomes a free agent. You got Luol Deng to opt in. So you've got Bosh, Whiteside, Deng, Wade and Dragic, a backcourt that can compete with almost anybody in the league. And then you've got this kid, Justice Winslow, out of Duke, who can ball, who I believe was the steal of the draft. And do not underestimate the athleticism of a Gerald Green, who was in Phoenix last year, gave you 11 points, shot 35% from three-point range. Gerald Green is an athlete coming off the bench, and then you re-signed Amari Stoudemire, who for 18 to 20 minutes a night can give you a little something. Pat Riley is coming. Pat Riley's mentality has always been, from the moment that LeBron James left, Pat Riley's mentality has always been, do not judge from year one. Obviously, it's a devastating loss for us. But let's see who does what over the next 5 years. That's Pat Riley's mentality. And the Miami Heat are clearly coming. Make no mistake about it. Now, I'm quite sure Pat Riley didn't like to see Dwayne Wade with the pictures with the lovely wife Gabrielle, with LeBron and Chris Paul on that little boat in the water for vacationing together, the banana boat. I'm quite sure Pat Riley did not like that because Pat Riley's old school. We talked about this. And, you know, as far as he's concerned, LeBron is the enemy, and he wishes Dwayne Wade felt the same way. Dwayne Wade obviously doesn't because that's his brother. He loves him dearly, but that doesn't mean that D-Wade ain't going to go at him when they get on the court. Things are getting very, very interesting in the East, because let's face reality, as a man who covered the Eastern Conference Finals, no disrespect, because I had no problem being in the ATL for a couple of weeks at all. But the bottom line is, would I have preferred to be in South Beach? Yes. And I think that it is inevitable, and I think that you are going to see Miami and Cleveland in the Eastern Conference Finals next year, and I don't think Pat Riley's finish wouldn't surprise me if another move was made before the trading deadline.
For the first time on our return show, I agree with every point you just made, except for your big picture premise. I think right now, on paper, I like this team so much, I think right now, on paper, it's a little better than the Cavaliers. Wow. Right now. Now, again, health is going to be a huge factor. I was pleasantly shocked that Dwayne decided to stay for the 1 year at $20 million. He had made a lot of noise about going a lot of other places. We know all the other scenarios. This is great. I think he will be on a mission. And if, with the help of the great Tim Grover, he can stay 90% healthy next year, maybe a little healthier than he was this past season, and Chris Bosh can get and stay, God bless him, healthy. They got Josh McRoberts back from his injury. So if this team has health next year, I think it can dethrone in the East LeBron's team.
Well, listen, I'm not going to completely knock that theory, because when you look at those guys, they're literally 10 deep. You can put Amari in a game.
Yeah.
You can put Gerald Green in a game. Mario Chalmers, you can put in a game.
And Birdman, Chris Anderson.
And Chris Anderson, excuse me.
Yeah.
What makes it interesting, and stay with me here, when I look at Miami, you know who I see in terms of the Cavaliers competition? I see San Antonio. Let me explain why. Chris Bosh has the ability to pick and pop. He can hit you and hurt you from 15 to 17 feet, and he can hit spot-up threes. Hassan Whiteside is a neutralizer in the paint in terms of his defense and shot-blocking prowess. That takes away a post game from guards. In other words, even somebody like LeBron, who's really a forward, but LeBron posting up against Golden State is entirely different than him posting up against Hassan Whiteside in Miami. Just like it would be different him posting up against Tim Duncan and LaMarcus Aldridge in San Antonio. So what that does is take Cleveland, make them more of a perimeter shooting team, if not an up-tempo team, which could potentially play into the hands of a Miami and make things interesting. Because in a perfect world, that's what Miami wants. D. Wade and those boys want to get out and run. They want to push the ball up the court, and when you add Gerald Green and you consider the youth and athleticism of a Justice Winslow, that makes things very interesting. And I'm telling you right now, I'm loving what I'm seeing, because I love the specter of a collision course. See, that's what makes the NBA special, when you have that. All of this stuff. I mean, last year we were looking at the Eastern Conference, and I'm like, and I kept saying, I don't care about no 60 wins from Atlanta. Do you really expect me to believe that Damari Carroll and Al Horford and Jeff Teague, no disrespect whatsoever, because they can play? Do you really think I believe they're going to beat LeBron in the conference finals? I can't see it. But I'm looking at the fact that it's Miami and Cleveland, and it's a collision course that's imminent. And that's what gets your juices flowing right there. I just can't wait. I just can't wait. It's South Beach against LeBron.
The only reason,
I'm loving it.
I cannot dismiss the Atlanta Hawks.
Please.
They do now have
Tiago Splitter.
Stop it. Tiago Splitter is now an Atlanta Hawk.
Don't waste my time. Don't waste my time. Listen, they'll make the playoffs. They'll make the playoffs. They'll be respectable. They will not fall off the map. But they're not beating Miami, and they're not beating Cleveland, period.
So fair to say, most intriguing matchup in the East during the regular season in post right now looks like Miami and the Cavs. And good thing for D. Wade. He gets to keep his legacy intact. He's making $20 million a year. Not bad.
And by the way, he's only making the $20 million a year now for the 1 year because they want room next offseason to grab Kevin Durant. Then they would re-sign D. Wade after that as well.
Before we get started here on the Cowboys, though, Stephen A. Smith, there's something I know you wanted to address quickly.
I just needed to correct something because I talked about Rock Nation. Obviously they're in the mix now as an agent representative, and I brought up the name Tom Condon.
For Dez.
For Dez. Yeah. And Tom Condon is not working with them any longer because Rock Nation is no longer connected with CAA. They're standing on their own. They have various agents that work under their umbrella that negotiate on their behalf. But Juan Perez, Jay-Z's right-hand man, I've known him for years, big-time brother. He works with, owns part of 4040. He does a lot of things. He's involved in a lot of the negotiations, and obviously they have agents who are involved in it. But I needed to correct myself because they are not connected with CAA.
Do you think this is making negotiations more difficult for Jerry Jones?
Potentially so, because somebody like Juan and Jay and those guys who I've known for years, they're no nonsense, and they're not, they're just not. They know what the value of their client is, and they're hell-bent on making sure that the value of their client is fully appreciated, and they're going to go through hell and high water to make sure that happens, whatever it takes. And I'm quite sure that if you're Jerry Jones and you're not accustomed to dealing with them, that it might throw you off a little bit.
You remember, negotiations started with Eugene Parker as the former agent of Dez Bryant.
Yeah, but the key to the point that I'm making is Rock Nation is standing alone. They are no longer working in concert with CAA.
Because I'm a hustler, baby. I just want you to know.
Something like that.
All right, let's get into it. We are now only 2 days away from the deadline for Dez Bryant to sign a long-term deal or to play under the franchise tender, which is worth $12.8 million for this upcoming season. League sources have told our Ed Warder that Bryant personally informed Cowboys Executive Vice President Stephen Jones that he will not attend training camp and will sit out of regular season games unless they reach agreement on a long-term deal before Wednesday's deadline. Skip, what is your reaction to this?
My reaction is good for Dez Bryant.
Okay.
I love it that he threatened exactly what he should be threatening today. He drew a line in that Texas dust for Jerry Jones. Jerry, now it's on you to figure out how to get this deal done in the next 24 to 48 hours. I believe in Jerry Jones, his business acumen. I'll go so far as to say his business genius. He's going to have to use all of his wiles, his cleverness, to figure a way to finesse a deal under the salary cap that will make Dez Bryant happy. He has convinced me, if he's not already, he is on his way, Dez Bryant, to becoming the best receiver in all of pro football. And by the way, that was a catch at Green Bay last year. I'm going to say it one more time. And because it should have been called a catch, Dez deserves his money. I'm going to trust Jerry is going to get this deal done on time.
I'm going to trust that he better get the deal done. And let me be very clear about what I'm about to say. This reminds me, in a roundabout way anyway, to Jerry Jones with Emmitt Smith. If you're Dez Bryant, you looked at a DeMarco Murray walk out the door. You've seen the Jason Wittens of the world, the Tony Romos of the world taken care of. Excuse me, what about this brother? This brother performs. He's durable. He shows up week in, week out, and he gets the job done and is universally recognized as one of the elite guys in the game. One of the things that stood out about me from an illustrative perspective, visually speaking, I remember, we all know how much junk Richard Sherman talks and how he gets into your face and all of this other stuff. I saw that brother shaking hands with Dez Bryant and giving him dap during the game because there's certain guys that you just have a profound level of respect for, all right? And that is Dez Bryant. No matter who's going up against him, you know this brother's for real. He deserves his money.
He does.
He's relied upon. He shows up. Give him his money. You didn't take care of DeMarco Murray, supposedly, so you could have money to take care of who you want to take care of.
And it wasn't about taking care of. He was going to be more trouble, more expensive than he was worth.
You can't sit there and refrain from taking care of DeMarco Murray and then to do the same to Dez Bryant. You've got to take care of Dez Bryant. Give him his money.
And I don't like the prospect of Dez holding out and being an unhappy camper going into next season if you try to force the franchise tag on him, which is still a possibility. I want to see him sign now and be happy because he's become a leader of this football team.
That's right.
He was immature early on. I think he's grown up.
Give him his money. Give him his money. He's earned it.
I agree.
The Sun Thunder matched the Blazers' offer sheet to center Inez Kanter and signed him to a 4-year, $70 million deal. Skip, what did you think when you heard this?
Stephen A. Smith, $17.5 million a year for Kanter. Are you kidding me? They got stuck with this deal. They had to match the offer sheet because they said, hey, we pledged to keep him after we acquired him. He's become an even better pick-and-pop player than they expected, but he plays almost no defense. It's another advantage San Antonio. And remember, they're going to have to pay huge luxury tax now, and that's what they wouldn't pay to keep James Harden. Really?
Well, times have changed, and there's more money involved. We obviously know they should have paid the money to keep James Harden in light of this reality. But at the end of the day, I think Kanter is good for 15 and 9 a game from the big man spot. And when you consider the fact that you've got Russell Westbrook and Serge Ibaka defensively, and you've got the offensive juggernaut that is Kevin Durant, everything comes down to his health. If Kevin Durant is healthy, it's still a potential nightmare for the San Antonio Spurs. If he's not healthy, then obviously that bodes well for San Antonio. But I do believe at this price, in today's NBA market, you had to keep an Enes Kanter. You don't find somebody that can give you 15 and 9 from the center position in the NBA consistently. Just look around and think about how tough it is to find, and then you see what the deal is.
So he plays almost no defense, and you're going to stand up to the likes of San Antonio with that guy?
They say he's improved defensively, but he's got a ways to go. And I'm telling you that what he also, and this is not to absolve him from anything, because it's a black mark as far as I'm concerned, he did acknowledge that he wasn't as interested in playing basketball in Utah before he got to Oklahoma City. Now, you're a professional. That's an inexcusable comment to make, let alone feel, especially when you're taking their money. But nevertheless, the level of enthusiasm that he displayed when he was in Oklahoma was clearly absent when he was in Utah. And so the upside is there, because only like his 5th year in the league, and he's good for 15 and 9. With Ibaka, with Durant, and Russell Westbrook, and you lose him, then you have nothing in the middle, and you've got a problem. So I have no problem with them keeping him. And the $70 million, I understand in today's market, that's just the way it goes, man. Guys are getting paid. LeBron's going to get $40 million next year. 40.
Money, money, money. Listen, still great to have you guys back. First take from L.A. It was fun. But up next, his and hers coming to you from L.A. Also on tomorrow's show, Chris Tucker is going to be joining us. Jamel, Michael Smith, they will be taken away now. Have a great day, people.